When it becomes a struggle, if you're in a situation where you're struggling, that's where intuition is telling you, hey, there's a different path. It might look inconvenient or not like something other people would say yes to. It might get a bunch of naysayers like, oh, you don't want to do that. That's not a good idea. And I'm like, are you kidding? You don't know my path. Nobody knows your path but you, but your intuition does know.
Welcome to the Sock Door Podcast, where life is messy, but we always find meaning in it. Every week, we pull out the stories, the lessons, and the hidden gems. And then we ask the big question, keep it or kick it? If you're ready for real talk, brave steps forward. I'm your host, Lisa Begley, and you're listening to the Sock Door Podcast. Let's jump right in. Hey there, Sock Drawer family. Listen, most people don't quit their jobs because they're lazy or unmotivated. They step away because they've quietly outgrown a life that maybe no longer fits. And today's conversation, it's for anyone who looks successful on paper, but feels disconnected inside, right? My guest, Maggie Mistal, she has spent more than 2 decades helping people reconnect with who they really are and then design work that actually fits their life. She's known for blending intuition with strategy in a way that feels practical, grounded, and deeply human. Maggie, thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here today.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I'm glad too. I mean, this is the kind of conversation I think we should all be having all the time.
I agree. I completely agree with that. Oh my gosh, if you could just hear my story. I have a list, 23 plus years in career and executive coaching. Maggie has done former change enablement consultant at Arthur Andersen, former director of learning and development at Martha Stewart Living, Omni Media, author of Are You Ready to Love Your Job? I think a question we'd all have in the back of our minds, former SiriusXM career talk show host, 7 years, and now host of Making a Living with Maggie, which they just reached their 101st episode. I'm so excited for them. Congratulations.
Thanks, Lisa. Boy, you do your homework.
I try. Listen, what I appreciate about your work is that it doesn't ask people to ignore reality. It seems to ask them to stop ignoring themselves, right? So take me back, like, how did this all begin? Can you kind of give me the origin story?
Sure. Well, of course, the coach had to get her own coaching. I honestly, life is what led me this way.
Right.
And it started when I was 6 years old, frankly. My mom went back to medical school at 28 years old with 3 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was her dream. That was her dream since she was 6 years old. And when I found out later when she married my dad and was about to, she said, you're going to support me in going to medical school, right? And so that was part of their contract. And he did. And that was also, it's just a fabulous way to grow up. Seeing someone follow their passion, seeing the whole family rally behind that person. She's still a physician today, practicing at 76 years old. Don't tell her I said her age. Doesn't look it. Amazing. But yeah, honestly, it really set the tone for me that I didn't have to get it right out of the gate. And if I need to make a change, I could. And even like a lot of people say, well, I have children, I can make a change, or I have responsibilities with the family and mortgage. We have those things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My mom was still able to do it. And so, yeah. So I think it opened up the world to me to have that experience as a child.
That's amazing. And what were you doing? Such role models are so important in our lives, Rewinding a bit, what were you doing professionally before career coaching kind of entered the picture?
Sure. So I was doing change management consulting at Arthur Andersen, as you mentioned, and change enablement, we called it, which actually is coming in handy and has as a coach for years because what are we going through all the time? Change. Especially, right? Unprecedented levels of change. And so what I learned in that role was to see change as opportunity and to see the benefits of change and to how to flow through change. Because there literally is a human change process. Yeah. And it involves a valley of despair, Lisa. Mm-hmm. Right? It does, because we have to let go of the old and then we haven't quite latched on the new. We're in this weird limbo that everyone experiences as despair. It's literally despairing. Yeah. It's despairing, right? Yeah. So it's enabled me a lot to understand the psychology of what people go through when they go through any change. And career is one of those big areas where sometimes people are forced to make a change.
Yeah. So when you were working in this very high, very traditional sort of high performing environments, what kind of started to fill off for you?
the travel started getting to me. I mean, I moved a lot within Arthur Anderson. Frankly, I started with the CPA and audit. So I went the whole accounting route. And actually, I have to thank my University of Villanova because they had an internship program. I had a job when I graduated. You know, it was wonderful. It was all the things you want. But then I realized, I don't love this work.
Yeah.
I like more than numbers.
So many people do that though, right? And Villanova, that's amazing. Yay. Philly, right?
Of course, I mean, I'm a Pope. I mean, it's great stuff. But it's just so interesting that I was like, what do I do now? And I was 23 years old and nobody wanted to talk to me about anything but accounting. But Arthur Andersen, thank goodness, was a great firm. Unfortunately, no longer around. They were acquitted, by the way, by the Supreme Court of any wrongdoing in the Enron debacle. It's defunct. The company's defunct.
Thank
but
you
still.
so much for clearing that up.
Yeah, nobody knows. But great people. And because of that, I was able to move 3 different offices from Pittsburgh to Philly to New York and different divisions within the company or different areas. All within consulting because I moved out of audit. But ultimately, that really supported me in a lot of things, even being a business owner today. I met my husband at Arthur Andersen. We talk about how grateful we are to have started our careers in consulting because it just teaches you a lot of things about how to make a proposal and how to pitch work and how to set up a business or how to even implement best practices or new technology. Somebody that thinking did as consultants for large companies, we're now able to do for ourselves. And so it was almost like building blocks, right? Over time, first as a young child, right? Then, and actually the Enron debacle was what really pushed me out of the Arthur Andersen nest, if you will, because I had been pretty unhappy for about 2 years with the travel. So I moved to New York City, but I was never there. And that's no fault of the firm. They never promised me I'd be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is when consulting, you got to be at your clients 4 days a week. So Monday through Thursday, I was either flying somewhere or driving somewhere and kind of living during the week somewhere else. And I really wanted to be in the city. And so when Arthur Andersen went on with Enron, I said, this is my chance to really figure out what I want to do and make a shift. And that's when career coaching came into the realm. I found the Life Purpose Institute in San Diego, and I started to get clarity on my own life purpose. And I found this whole career coaching role that I didn't even know existed. Yeah. And so that's what kind of started me off on the path. And I had all the built-in clients of all my Arthur Andersen friends who are also changing. So I got to practice on a lot of people.
That's amazing. I would say, it sounds like, I don't know how many, but what risks did you take when you stepped out of that work into this work?
It was huge because I owned my apartment in New York. As you can understand, consultant was making good money. Yeah. And I was like in my late 20s. I owned my apartment in New York City, a nice big mortgage. And but I knew I couldn't just turn around and become a coach and make the same amount. Right. And so I took a job, and that's where Martha Stewart came in, which was wonderful. I took a job in learning and development. Yeah, it was a good match for my change management experience. But it was a 35% pay cut. That was a risk. Yeah.
That's a huge risk in New York City for sure.
Well, a lot of people coached me against it, including my own parents. Because they're like, we don't want to pay for your mortgage. I'm like, don't worry. It's just temporary. Yeah. And to be honest, that's a huge part of career transition hurdle for most people.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I went through it because now I know how to do it. And that's what you do as a coach, right? You do something and then turn around and teach others.
Yes. And it's interesting that you say that. So how would you say, what would you say to somebody who's experiencing the same thing? Like, I just can't afford it and there's no way I can do it. How did you make that work? And so there's one question before it leaves my mind. I want to jump back to something you said earlier that I think is super important because a lot of people do the consulting route differently, right? They do that after they've spent 30 years in a career and they're like, now I'm going to consult. I love what you said about realizing I was consulting early and you learned how to do that on the front end. And I would love to hear your input and what you share with people who would love to consult, but don't either feel like they have the experience. Like, where do you start with that so you can get it on the front end and not have to wait 30 years to do it on the back end? So 2 questions hanging out there.
Yeah, sure. I don't think I remember the first one.
Me either.
That's okay. What happens when
it's good you say that, but it will come to me, I promise.
It'll come
back. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but honestly, so consulting is more of a way of working with people. Mm-hmm. And there are really good books about, they're tried and true. They've been around a long time, but I actually find a lot of that wisdom still holds. So I remember as consultants, we were trained, I think the book was called Flawless Consulting, and it was just about, hey, there's a current state and you have to figure out what that is. Then you must define where do you want to be is the future state. And then it's like, okay, well, we know the current, we know the future. How do we get there? Yeah. And as a consultant, you figure that out with the client. And then you ask the client, do you want me to help you implement that too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So good. Yeah.
At Arthur Andersen. And we were formally trained. You can always read books or get training. I mean, there's so much online training now. I can even ask ChatGPT,
Yeah.
what's the standard consulting model?
Yeah.
If you need one, but you have to have something to bring to a client. Like you can't just say, oh, I'll just figure it out on the fly and let you know later. You've got to be able to scope it out, understand what the needs are, put a price tag to it, which I think are the skills a lot of people don't get. They don't know how to price their time. They don't know how long something's going to take. So what I tell my clients, I have a process that I take them through with their career change, but it's basically this research step in the middle, right? So it's soul search, research, job search. And in the soul search is about getting that clarity of what you want. The job search is about taking action, but in between, you got to test some things out. And if you're testing out consulting, it's like test out a few, pilot projects with friends or family or a nonprofit, and do some scoping out of it. Put some hours to it. See if you're right. You have to get some experience in order to understand where you need support, where you're good at something, where you're not good at something. But honestly, consulting is one of those things you can learn. It's a skill you can definitely learn.
I agree with that. The question before was money, right? Like you lived in New York City, you took a 35% cut and you found Martha Stewart and became part of their training, learning and development program, which was so fabulous. Tell us a little bit more about that. And what would you say to the person who says, it sounds like you took a second job so that you could manage it as you built your consulting business, but I don't want to speak out of turn. And what would you say to the person who says, I can't afford it? There's no way I want to do this, but I don't know how to get there.
Yeah, great job, Lisa. That's the question. And it's so scary for a lot of people. So I realized I wanted to build my coaching practice my way, and I wanted money to be able to do that. Like I had seen other business owners start and then have all this monetary pressure, and then they take the wrong clients or they take the wrong projects, and then things fall apart because of that. And so I really wanted some financial security. I wanted to not come from coaching, not at the beginning. And so the Martha Stewart job was not only a 35%, it was a step back on the career ladder too. I went from being a manager at Arthur Andersen to being a senior trainer at Martha Stewart. But I thought, you know what, that's good because I want to do my 9 to 6 job, but I want to leave it there because I have other things to do with my time after work. And in consulting, that was very difficult. We were actually not allowed. We signed a contract that said we would not have outside businesses because the firm wanted access to us, whenever they needed, which was fair. They paid us for it. But when I, got back the time, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this job. I'll do it well, but I need time and nights and weekends to coach. Yeah. And the cool part was, yes, I took a 35% pay cut. I did the numbers, so I knew I could pay my mortgage, just the fixed costs of what I really needed to cover, right? Yeah. Utilities, mortgage, all that stuff. I missed some things like gifts. I'm like, whoops, I don't have money for this right now. Sorry. But the cool part was coaching. To say, big money. Here we go. Here's another way. And the coolest experience was making money doing something that I loved. Feeling that like, oh my gosh, I felt like pitching myself. If I could get paid to do this, like I would do this anyway. But that's the other thing about coaching or consulting, is people have to want to get your advice. You can't push it on them. They have to ask for it, right? Yeah. In order for it to work. So when I was able to put out a shingle formally say, yes, I'm a coach, and then start collecting from it. And then my market job was great. So I ended up getting promoted to director of learning and development. I ended up getting promoted to host the whole, to not only host the radio show, which was a paid gig too, but also have this director of learning and development job. So it was all aligned though. Like I saw myself doing the work I loved. Even the work I was doing at Martha I was able to focus on career class and do coaching within the company. Like I was able to just pull everything together and really get paid doing work that I wanted to do anyway. Yeah. And that was a whole nother, and that's where I really think the radio show came from. That was a dream come true. And one, I still pinch myself that happened. it's kind of like the back of my mind dream, like, oh, that would be so cool. I used to listen to top radio all the time. Like, oh, I'd love to be a top radio. Martha launched a radio channel on SiriusXM. Who knew that was going to happen? Nobody knew that. I didn't know that when I joined.
Right?
Nobody knew. And then they're looking for content. They're like, we need our people in the company to come forth with content. I'm like, how about a career talk show? Because I've been coaching all the employees.
Yeah.
And they said, do you want to host the show? And I'm like, I would love to host the show. I mean, it was magical. But that's the type of stuff that I think people see the money and the dollar sign and they think, oh, I can't do it. Meanwhile, by me taking that risk, but I knew I could cover my bills. So it wasn't that risky. But I did, kind of squeeze my disposable income. There wasn't anything left, really. But it gave me the opportunity to expand my world in ways that if I hadn't made that move, I wouldn't have lived this dream that truly was one of the pipe dreams I kept in my mind. And I think we could all be living those pipe dreams if we gave ourselves these opportunities.
I agree. I think, I'm definitely a proponent of don't pass up an opportunity. If it's something that interests you and you want to do it, figure it out, I know you talk a lot about intuition and I love this. So when did intuition kind of stop feeling like optional and start feeling essential?
When I realized my own true calling.
Okay.
Now I have to do this work too on myself.
Yes.
Just do it for everybody else. Yeah. Right.
Sure.
And so I had a personality pattern assessment in 2020. And so I did it myself and I realized, oh, it has a true calling component. Yeah. And my true calling is intuition. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, I have the gentle guide that's in my pattern, but it's not my career. So it's good to be a coach, but it's not I have to be an intuitive career coach, right? To be an intuitive coach that's really leveraging if I want to have the strongest platform. And this system is really great. I really enjoy using it. And it's really changed for me what I put as my major, if you will, to go back to college terms, right? Major and minor. Yeah. Before understanding myself in that sense, I was putting the gentle guide, as my major. That's what I'm here to do. I'm the coach. It's like, no, you're the intuitive. You just happen to be applying intuition right now through coaching, but you can be applying your intuition in all kinds of things. Yeah. And so that's what really sparked it, is I taking my own advice.
So good. What would you say to someone? How can they tell the difference between, if someone's contemplating these things right now, how can someone tell the difference between burnout and just maybe simply misalignment?
I think they're the same. I don't think they're different.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is how drastic of a change they need to make, right?
Or do they even need to make a change, or are they just feeling like, do they still love what they do, but they don't recognize it because they're so burnt out, right?
They've done it too much.
How to make that,
do what you love. I'm sorry. When you do what you love, it gives you energy. Martha Stewart taught me that. I got to interview her on my radio, right? Amazing. 45 minutes of Martha telling her career story, which, by the way, if your audience wants another book, there's a book called The Martha Rules, RULES, that she produced that has her career advice. It's great. I don't even know if it's still in print, but you can get used copies. Such a good book.
Martha Rules, listeners.
Martha Rules, yeah. Okay. And ultimately, she said, when you do what you love, it gives you energy, because she only gets 5 hours of sleep. Yeah. She's in her 80s, and she's got $1 million, and it continues to change and do new things all the time. And I had to ask her, how do you do it? She said, when you do what you love, it gives you energy. Yeah. And so if you're burned out, there's chances are something structural about it. Maybe you need to change the format in which you're doing it. Maybe that's maybe it's on other people's terms and you be on your terms, or maybe that happens a lot. I think what I've seen also, Lisa, there's another term, core genius, that I've seen play out.
Yeah.
Everybody has this core genius, and it's more than just our skills, although those are important, our talents. It's the person we are. Yeah. And, and when that core genius is being used by someone else to get to their goals, and it's not being used by you to get to your purpose, that's when we're. So it is misaligned, but it's as your energy is not going where you really want it to go. And that's going to be my, later on I'll share.
I love it. So what signals do people ignore the longest, Maggie, before they admit something needs to change? What do you think it is?
I think they think it's everybody else's problem. That's how I was, right? I complained for 2 straight years about the firm and the fact that they wouldn't put me on a project in New York, which meant I'd have to change industries, which I had no experience in. Yeah. Like, why do they care so much? I can learn anything.
I'll learn it. That's right.
He's not the boss. It's the company. It's the rules. And I think when you're blaming the system or the outside, anything outside of yourself, that's usually a telltale sign. And if it gets so bad, it's so funny. So I was reading a book, my now husband, then boyfriend, was reading a book called like Zen and the Art of Making a Living, something like that. And he had read this book before me. And so he's like, you should read this. This is good for your career. I'm like, okay, good. I'm reading it. And it's talking about that person that complains all the time and how they get annoying and nobody wants to talk about work or anything about because they're just upset all the time. Yeah. And then he'd written my initials in the side, in the margin. I was like, oh my God. Because I'm like, yeah, that's so horrible of you. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah. Me. And so it's that mirror that gets put up eventually. And I've seen this because I coach people inside companies, or at Martha, I've coached people in other companies, right? Plus people just come to me on their own. I've also seen jobs separate from people. Like mine did with Arthur Andersen. Arthur Andersen was a 99-year-old company that went down, completely disappeared. And for me, it was a blessing. I'm not saying it was a blessing for everybody, but I needed to leave. And I wasn't leaving. So what happened? The job left me. You know, and that we see that with a lot of layoffs. When I get behind the layoff, where someone has been laid off, yes, and there are people who laid off in their dream jobs, yes. But I bet you I could still get to something about it that wasn't working. Yeah. That part of them really wanted to change, but couldn't bring themselves to do. You know, so the universe has a way of self-correcting, and it'll get us there. You know, come hell or high water. I think we can make it easier when we are more honest with ourselves, and that's what I love to help people do. I'm like, let's just be honest. I'm sorry it could seem convenient right now, but don't worry, we'll make it easier. Right? We'll come up with a plan. I took 4 years to become a coach full time. I didn't do it overnight. Yeah. You have to do it fast if you don't want to. So, but the lack of honesty with yourself is really the biggest issue.
Yes, I agree with that. I see that very often. Can intuition, is it something that you think can be strengthened, or is it something we relearn how to trust?
Well, I think it could be strengthened just by listening to it. And most people, I have to take my advice because there's times when I'll get a feeling. My intuition hits me as a feeling, like something like, and at times it's like, you'll be happy if you do this. And I'm like, really? And I had to have a debate in my head. Like, are you sure? Why should I eat in brown? Look, it's sunny outside. I mean, really, something else I have to carry, blah, blah, blah. And then I get there and it's raining. I'm like, oh, that's why it's said about, you know, and so the inklings are there. It's the question of, are you listening to them? Are you taking them into your decision-making process? Are you actually following the advice your own self is giving you? Because honestly, the more I've trusted my intuition, the easier life gets. Yeah. Right? It's when I get in the way, my ego or my logic, or again, these places have, you know, logic has its place. And I'm not saying get rid of it. But intuition is a quieter voice, and you have to calm down, slow down, pay attention, take it into account. You know, so I tell people to practice on something simple, like what you order for lunch, you know, or dinner, you know, like ask your intuition, what do you think is the best thing for me to have? You know, what's going to be the best for my body? And then see if it tastes good one. See if you had like, you know, a health thing, and this was exactly the food that makes it better for you. Like chances are there's a wisdom within us. And when we listen to it, again, life gets easier, and things that look like magic are actually just there for us to take hold of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I just had a story, personal quick story recently, a couple years ago. I guess it wasn't that recent. I sent in a resignation letter. So I had this feeling like my time was done here. And I sent in a resignation letter, and they came back with, but we're starting this new department. Will you help us out? So I look back now and I go, it was the desire to help, because I'm definitely, you know, I always want to help people grow and companies grow or whatever. But it was also, it was an ego, right? It was the ego of like, oh, they need me, they want me, blah, blah, blah. I stayed. I should have never stayed, you know, and like 6 months later or whatever it was, I don't even remember now. And it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme, but 6 months later, they closed the whole department and let 6 of us out. Let 6 of us go. And I was like, I knew it. I was listening to my intuition. I was driven to like, be done, sent in a resignation letter, very grateful. I learned a lot. It was a wonderful 2.5 years with them. And I stayed, and I should have I knew better. Like, you just know. And I feel like it is something you kind of have to learn to listen to. At least for me, I've had to do that. So I totally love that you work with intuition and you help people find and recognize their intuition, because man, I think, what do you notice in people who sense the truth, but they hesitate to act on it? Like, can you see it for them sometimes?
All of them.
Yeah, I love it. Good. Tell me more. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. And I'm trying to talk my intuition. Like, I can't say that. Yes, you can. You have to.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't do it. It just keeps repeating. Gently follow this group. I'm like, okay, fine. Oh, okay, I've been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I see is what we call blocks or challenges, like the struggle. That's what happens when we're not following our intuition.
Yeah.
So, and it'd be interesting because I used to take this personally, I think, or part of it. That gentle guide in me is in my inner child. My inner child gets very unhappy when people don't listen to my advice. But it was funny because I'm like, maybe they're going to get there anyway. They're going to learn. It's okay. But honestly, when it becomes a struggle, and it's like, effort's fine. But if you're in a situation where you're struggling, that's where intuition is telling you, hey, there's a different path. Yeah. It might look inconvenient or not like something other people would say yes to, right? You might get a bunch of naysayers like, oh, like me. I had so many naysayers, Lisa, to leaving consulting and going into the path I went. They're like, oh, you don't want to do that. That's not a good idea. Yeah. Even though it was Martha Stewart company, like, well, that's good at least. I'm like, are you kidding? You don't know my path. Yeah. Nobody knows your path but you, but your intuition does know. And it often doesn't make logical sense because you're only taking into account a small section of information. I know our brains are good, but intuition is taking into account such a bigger picture. Yeah. And there are parts and pieces and people aligning in ways that you would think are magical. But it's happening. It's almost like a train. Like, get on the train. Going somewhere really good. Even though you don't. Yeah. Well, you get another one. I do find keeps coming and keeps coming. I don't think that people ever miss. Something else I learned from Martha, which I think is so true. Don't ever think your only opportunity is past. But she's like, no, there's always more opportunities. And so, I think that's also why our intuition is like that constant tap. It doesn't stop tapping, until you get on the train, until you start going in the direction you're really meant to go in. And then magical things happen. And some people get scared, Lisa, because I know it's going to. I've seen it over 20 years. Yeah. I'm like, I know you're going to have crazy moments. You're going to see all these coincidences and you're going to think, how does this happen? I'm like, this is how life's supposed to be. Yeah. But we keep stopping it because we get scared. And I have had some people kind of dial back, and that's okay. They'll get there. But it's not, it's actually the magical life is the one that's actually very normal and practical.
Yeah. Well, I love it. It's like you're leading people to use the gifts they were given in the first place, How can people release an old professional identity, right, when they're trying to make these changes without feeling like they wasted their past? What do you say to them?
There's never a waste. And again, I experience it. The best part for me, I'm such a experiential learner. So when I go through it, I'm like, okay, I get it, and I went through this too. I was a CPA. Like, I spent all my college education on accounting. I studied for the CPA, which was not easy. I passed all 4 cards. I did all this stuff, and then I was like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, oh, no. What did I just do to myself? Meanwhile, I've learned being a CPA helps me with my own business. I know how to read my own financial statements, and I know what my accountant's supposed to be doing, and my, bookkeeper and all that. And also it gives me credibility, right? Because say I'm a CPA, I can talk about intuition. But then people are saying, oh, she's a CPA, so she gets the groundedness too. Yeah. Right? So it's never your life experience is part of that core genius. Yeah. So your path is there for a reason. And even if you took a wrong turn, you're going to take things with you that are going to help you in your career. You just might not see how right now, but trust me, you will see that it does.
That's good. That's good. And what drew you, so a little pivot here, what drew you, I'm curious, towards the 5 elements work and biofield tuning? Can you give us some insight on that?
Yes. So thank you for asking, because it seems woo-woo and out there, but these are both really practical tools. They're so practical, more practical than
all together, right? You're bringing it all together. I love that.
Well, I thought when I started as a coach, and you could probably appreciate it, that if I just help people get to their answer, they would do. I'm like, oh, they just must not know. But I'll help them know, and then they'll just do it. And guess what? No, that didn't happen. Not everybody, because there's fears, there's doubts, there's limiting beliefs, there's all this other static that gets in the way, that keeps us from allowing ourselves to be the person we came here to be, or to take those steps that are so scary. Get on that right path. So that's where those two things came in. The 5 elements of the personality pattern I was talking about.
Yeah.
Really, that true calling aspect, it's based on date of birth and your face. That's what I ask people for. Tell them their true calling, according to that system. And people are like shocked in a good way. They're like, how does it know?
Yeah.
So, right?
How does it know?
It is a ancient system. It's a science. It's the same system that use.
Okay.
So it's actually the personality aspect of that whole system. It's based on the 5 elements it's based on nature, basically, that we are not separate from nature, and we follow cycles and patterns based on the elements of our personality.
Okay.
And there's 81 patterns in the system, so it's pretty detailed.
Yeah.
And age and stage, you'll appreciate it, comes into play. And every decade supports us differently in becoming more and more of who we're meant to be. So there's a lot of interplay, but that I love because it gives people confidence in their true calling and the confidence to build their career around it. Because it was even scary for me to put out there intuitive career coach on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I was like, can I put that out there? People are still going to respect me.
Put it out there. Yeah.
So when I learned if I don't do it, I'm missing out on my entire true calling. I'm like, I got to do this. Yeah. I got to take that brave step that I know you talk about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the tuning is the same way. Biofield tuning, I got to personally, it's basically that we have a biofield that's also scientific. That's not woo-woo. We do. It's, it's physics has confirmed that we do. We're electrical. And static literally does. It's emotional static. Past emotion or traumatic or dramatic experiences get stuck. And the problem is that static informs our decisions and movements today. So when I'm able to use a tuning fork to help a person clear their own field, again, sounds like woo-woo, but it's actually science. You can literally feel the block areas. They clear, the energy goes back where it's supposed to be, and people feel like, one person said she hasn't felt like herself in 8 months. We did a tuning, she's like, I feel like myself again. And she made a huge move to a new state, to a new job, all these things that she'd been putting off that she knew was the right thing for her. Her intuition had been telling her, but she didn't have the courage to do. So the biofield tuning and the personality pattern are the courage aspect, the power of belief. That's what I've also realized. You need to have a belief in yourself and a belief in these opportunities that are real for you. That's not real for you. These other tools are how I help people believe in themselves.
So wonderful. So when you're talking with someone that's a little, maybe they think it's woo-woo, how do you explain energy-based work in a grounded way, blending it with coaching, career coaching?
Yeah, I'm still on that one, Lisa.
Okay, well, we'll have another episode and we'll
I love that.
Together.
It'll
be great. No,
I mean, I'm sure. I love that.
Yeah,
no, people are getting more aware. And openness is the first step. Like, because a lot of clients, what I'm doing is I'm asking them to experiment with me. Like, so again, a soul search, research, job search is my coaching process. That research is the piloting phase. We're testing things out. So literally today, one thing I'm testing is I'm combining the coaching and the tuning together in the same time frame. So I literally will tune a person and then coach them and see if there's a difference. And I'm starting to see that we're having different conversations or how relevant the tuning insights are. If you get information from the tuning about what's going on and where the blocks are, how relevant it is to what we talk about in the coaching session.
Amazing.
So anyway, to be determined, but most people are getting more aware that we are actually energy and everything's energy. And if we can get we tune instruments, why can't we tune ourselves?
Yeah.
So it's coming. It's getting better every day.
I agree. I feel I agree with you 100%. I feel like energy work is becoming more and more, people are becoming more and more aware of it, and it's becoming more and more, not that it wasn't legit before, but people are starting to see it as not as woo-woo as we, used to think of it as. And I think it's because of the improvement, the slow improvement that happens over time. So tell me, you mentioned your process. Tell me a little bit about your process and a little bit about your business, and then where can we find you?
Oh, sure. So the core components of my process go all the way back to when I did that Life Purpose Institute, kind of that foundation, about 20 plus years of coaching and using that process, I've developed my own. So soul search, research, job search is really the steps that I see people need to take. Yeah. The soul search is getting to know yourself, and that can happen at any age and stage. It's never too late to really get to know who you are. And that's what the biofield tuning also helps with the personality pattern. It all works together especially in getting to know who you actually are at your core without all the noise, right? Without the external, right? And then the research is about testing, gathering information, testing things out. And still, those informational conversations, I know we have ChatGPT and all the other AI, which is great that we can do such great research. And talking to people, is one of the best things you can do. And I have a great network. I have like over 10,000 people that I'm connected with almost on LinkedIn now because of my 20 years of coaching and doing informational interviews. And supporting my clients and getting connected. And then the job search is the action plan phase. We know we need a resume. We know we need to be able to communicate about ourselves. All of that, again, is being supported and changed with AI. All of this is. But ultimately, you got to know your own. So this process really gives people confidence in that. Yeah. And I like to walk the talk and go through it myself. Your soul search doesn't exactly change. That's the idea. Is you get really clear on you. And I'll even go back now. They said, so fun having done this for 20 years. I'll go back to clients 10, 15 years ago. I'll pull up their information from their soul search and our process. I work together and it's the same. They're like, yeah, that's me. It didn't change. I'm like, that's the idea. We want the core. We want to get to the truth. And then life gets easier because you can align with that and you can align your choices with who you naturally are as opposed to shoehorning yourself into what's out there. So yeah, that's really the process. It's like, don't look externally, look internally first and then create what you want out there as opposed to letting it create you.
I'm going to say there's probably not a timeline to it. What is the normal timeline that you see people evolve through this process of yours and able to kind of find their intuition and find what they love doing?
Sure. I'd say 3 to 6 months, but of course, everyone's going to think faster. But what's cool about it, the minute people start their soul search, they're getting insights they can leverage right away. And they do. So I'm like, listen, you don't have to wait till the end of 3 months to have your new job or 6 months or whatever, but you do want to make your best decisions. So you'll get insights right away that you can be leveraging. But most people go through the process in 3 to 6 months. But my change, like I said, I did the process or I did the version of the time. And then I took 4 years of real research, actually, to get on track, to make sure I really wanted to be a coach and really make sure I could make a living at it. So the steps you take will depend on how big a change you're going to make. But through this actual process and knowing what steps that they need to go through that are the best practice, people can get that down in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What the difference between helping someone who's 30 and helping someone who's 50? What do you do for the midlifers, the people who come to you like they've been doing the same thing for 25, 30 years, and now they're recognizing, I'm not doing what I love. I'm not here. Do you see a difference in how you coach them through the process?
There is a difference because the 30-somethings are coming into their own, right? They're kind of up and coming into it. They're starting to get more confidence because they've been through the 20s, right? Yeah. But the 50-year-olds, and I know for myself, I'm early 50s, you have you're kind of like, there's parts of you like, I'm really confident in this thing. And you do know yourself. You have some aspects. So what I do though, there's a lot of fear around making a change. That's what's different. The 30-somethings are like, change is scary, but as we get older, I think change seems scarier because we think we're going to lose more. Yeah. Right. So built more on top of this. So it's going to stay this way. It's like, well, no, you can take all that with you. You can actually take the best of the past forward. So I ended up doing more conversation with the 50-year-old clients on the value of bringing what they have forward in new ways, as opposed to seeing, ageism. There's a lot of fear around that. They think they pretend to be something they're not, or, there's all this stuff that doesn't have to do with their actual capabilities that we end up talking about. So there's a lot more on that emotional side than there is with the younger folks. So the younger folks have fears because they haven't done it before, right? By 50, you've been through life changes. Yeah. But you're like, oh, am I going to miss out on my lifestyle? Because I've built more. And the reality is, no, you don't ever have to lose out on your lifestyle if you don't want to. In fact, why should you sacrifice? If you're a genius at something, you should be getting paid more, not less, when you get on track with that. So I'm all about making.
I love that. Thank you for answering that question, because I think our midlifers are wondering, and I think there's more and more of us out there who have done something and maybe multiple things over years and just said, I'm still not where I belong. And I know that, but I don't know how to get there. And so,
I'm there too. I continue to evolve. That's the thing. That's where teaching comes in, and not putting myself out there. I'm I even have the same fears. Yeah. Oh, great. And I put myself out there at that. What are people going to think? And we do this to ourselves, but the beauty of it is when we have more experience to lean on, that can actually be our best asset. So I encourage people to look back with appreciation and gratitude, which they do, but actually for themselves to say, look at me, look at what I've done. Not, oh, this is all I have to show for it. It's like, no, look at all you have to show for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to acknowledge that, all the things that you've done, and I appreciate that. Experienced that recently myself, but
Isn't that great? That's the beauty of
okay, so we've reached that time in the episode where we do our 60-second drawer dash. We do something where it's just a rapid fire, kind of a fast version of how someone ends up doing the work that they're meant to do. So I'm going to just fire some questions at you. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind.
All right, here we go.
Are you ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
One word people use to describe their job that's a red flag for you.
Boring.
Yeah. One question everyone should ask before changing careers.
Is this really right for me? I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Something people chase that rarely brings fulfillment.
Money.
I knew you were going to say that. I was waiting.
Money brings some fulfillment, but not the deeper one that we really crave. You got to have both. It's a yes and.
Agreed. A small daily habit that builds clarity.
Meditation. Definitely. Just quiet time for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. One belief about work you wish people would finally let go of.
Then can't do what you love and make a great living at it. That's so not true. That dream is in your heart for a reason, and it can build empires. And we've seen it. It's meant for you too. I don't know why people think it's not.
So good. All right, Maggie, Tiny Dare time. We close every episode with something we call the Tiny Dare. It's one small sort of doable action that our listeners can do, nothing overwhelming or, anything dramatic, but just something they can try right away that moves them one step closer to clarity, joy, alignment. What would you say for our listeners or suggest for our listeners?
Well, it comes back to energy, Lisa,
Okay.
And so I would dare people that for 7 days, notice what energizes you and what drains you. Because where your energy goes, that's where you're meant to be. Life is meant to be easier than we think it is. Life is meant to flow. It's not meant to be a struggle. So notice for 7 days what energizes you and what doesn't, because there's clues in that information. That data can really help you shape your future and make a great living and a great new career if you need to.
Amazing. So for 7 days, notice say it again.
What energizes you and what drains you. And I encourage you to write it down because you might not remember. Put it in your phone or make a list. But literally, I learned this from Martha Stewart. I've been practicing it since then. And look at her. She's a great example. Her energy continues to flow.
Continues to flow.
Yeah.
And she's been through the gamut, right? We know she's been through it literally. And look where she is. So Maggie, gosh, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I think you hit on that, Lisa, the idea of believing in yourself and trusting yourself and following your intuition. These are all in the past. I think we call them like soft skills or something that the heart knows the grindstone, kind of person doesn't do, And that was all the advice I remember growing up in Arthur Anderson, right? It was, play like a man, win like a woman, it was a different, again, I'm not saying it has to be just men, but it's that masculine energy that we all possess as men or women. It's about that hard nose, I'm going to get out there, push my way through everything. It's like, whoa, take into account the inside of life, right? Take into account that feminine, like, what's the quiet voice inside you saying? And again, even if it's an inconvenient truth, trust me, life is easier when you follow your intuition. And that's advice. Now that I've said it, guess what? I have to keep taking it too. So, follow your own integrity, which is that inner voice inside you that says it knows the path forward. You can trust it. And if you want to test it out with these little small steps, like we're talking about with the dare and other things, that can be your confirmation. You don't have to make an overnight change. You can get gradually there. And in life, it gets easier, more comfortable, more fun, all the things that we all want. It's all there, but we got to give ourselves that chance.
Love it. And you can find Maggie at maggiemistal.com, right? And on LinkedIn, you can find her on LinkedIn. How about social media? Where else can they find you, Maggie? Reach out to her, get the help that you intuitively know you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram as well as Facebook,
Love it.
Twitter, or X. Sorry, I have to upgrade that one to X. It's weird. I think all this, and I know there's always more social media. It's getting amazing. But yeah, more and more. YouTube as well. There's a lot of podcasts there. People want to listen. But yeah, I encourage people, just don't stay stuck. There's no reason. We're all evolving. And I think podcasts like yours, Lisa, you're doing a great job. I love your energy and I love the way you look at life. We're kindred spirits. And I can't wait to have you on making it look like, hey, it's going to be fun.
Yes. And you know what, Maggie, what I love about your story is that your career, it just didn't change because you failed. It changed because you listened. And that's huge. Mm-hmm. And that's, I feel like that's a practiced thing that needs to happen, right? It's possible to do the work you love. Sometimes that even looks like a job. It's okay. Doing the work you love doesn't mean being an entrepreneur or, you have to do a big, gigantic pivot or anything like that. You just have to be able to dig in and find it. So sometimes, it is entrepreneurial, or maybe you haven't even named it yet, but you need help doing that. That's where you can find Maggie. So Maggie, thank you for the wisdom, the honesty, and the calm that you bring to this work. And I love the energy work piece of it as well. It's just so helpful to learn that about yourself. And to my Sock Drawer family, listen up. You got to use these things that we're telling and sharing with you and put them to work in your daily life. I have the drawer method. You have to decide, apply, wing it, evaluate it, rinse and repeat. Do it every day and trust that clarity will come when you're willing to listen. Thanks for being here. We'll see you until next time. All right, Sock Drawer family, that's a wrap on today's Drawer Dump. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their story and their heart with us. Until next time. Don't forget, life's too short for mismatched socks. Retire the ones with holes, inspire the ones that still shine. See you soon.